As the Ukrainian counteroffensive has got underway, tensions and dysfunction have emerged among the Russians directing the war. Now that Ukraine is bringing the fight to the Russians, what impact will it have on a leadership in Moscow that's already feeling the pressure?
The infighting has actually started, and it's only going to intensify.
Inside Russia, the government is keen to project a sense of business as usual, even as the war starts to hit home.
The Russian capital getting a first-hand sense of war after an alleged drone attack.
Here, they're trying to ignore the Ukrainian counteroffensive unfolding hundreds of miles away. But within Russia's elites, cracks are starting to appear.
Increasingly, I think the talk, and this is what I'm getting from whatever sources I still in communication with on the ground in the Russian elite, that they are definitely haven't already lost confidence that this war is winnable, or that any of the aims, even though Putin has actually never properly explained to the country what is it that he's trying to achieve, that this was a good idea and those aims, however vague they are, can be achieved, that Russia is on the march. I mean, the fact that it's Ukraine that's on the offensive is shaping the mood. And I think that realization is sinking in amongst the elite, both the technocratic elite, but also of the more militant part, the Prigozhin, the Wagner groups, the radicals.
Yevgeny Prigozhin is the leader of the Wagner Group, a private military organization whose brutal mercenaries have been called on by Putin to bolster Russia's severely depleted forces. But the collaboration between Prigozhin's militia and the Russian military establishment appears to be unraveling.
The infighting I think, has actually started. And it's only going to intensify. And he is turning on the army.
Вы сидите в дорогих клубах. Ваши дети прутся от жизни и снимают на YouTube ролики. Вы думаете о том, что вы хозяева этой жизни, и о том, что вы имеете право распоряжаться их жизнями.
What we've seen, the rants directed against Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Defense, and against the Commander-in-Chiefs are very important because he is basically blaming them for being lukewarm. He's blaming Russian elite for not doing enough, and basically saying this is not the way to fight an all-out war, which he wants to see. I think that sense of the objectives of this war were unclear from the very beginning, and they're certainly unwinnable, as in Russia is not going to get to Kyiv, is really sinking in. And Prigozhin, and as the elites, and Prigozhin is part of that elite, are starting to prepare for the moment where they will have to concede some losses of territory. What Prigozhin has basically been channeling from the beginning is that Russia needs full mobilization. It needs to bring martial law, needs to call this a war, not a special military operation. My sense is there is a real intensifying of different factions around Kremlin, and it's fighting with each other. And this is out of the ordinary. I mean, Putin has always ruled through sowing conflict between his cronies, but he doesn't like this being, spilling into the open, into the public space. And this is what has happened. And that actually undermines the sense of the elite as well, that things are going according to plan. Because if Prigozhin is allowed to attack and accuse the Minister of Defense and the commander of the Russian forces of treason, it's now getting to the level where the question is Putin really in control of his own men? Depending on what Ukraine achieves, will or will not intensify a political process in Russia. So in that sense, what happens inside Russia politically will be determined by the success of this counteroffensive. The battlefield continues to shape politics in a way that we haven't seen since the Second World War. If Ukraine is successful, I think the infighting in Russia will intensify. I think Putin's position will start shifting. If Ukraine is not successful, however, and it does get stuck, trading a bit of territory, I think Putin will come out stronger politically, and that will allow him possibly to conduct another wave of mobilization. I think he can only do mobilization successfully at this stage if he can show some success on the battlefield. in the face of losing territory and suffering defeats, I think that mobilizing people and the elites will actually get a lot harder, and we could see more unraveling and more infighting in Russia, which is exactly, in a way, what Ukraine and the West want to achieve.
Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to read more of our coverage on Ukraine and the war, please click on the link.